Good evening, and welcome to the Black Mental Health is Mental Health. I'm your host, Bronwyn Lucas, and we have some exciting guests that I will introduce you to shortly. I want to thank you all for tuning in tonight, because tonight we're talking once again about education. A little different focus. Our topic is what parents need to know. And we will explore that tonight. We always start with some deep breathing. Why? Because it allows us to take more oxygen into our body, into our brain, and allows us to just decompress whatever kind of day you've had, good or bad, just that woosah moment. So how do we do that? Of course, you know how to breathe. You're alive and well and listening to the show. But to take in true deep breaths, I want you to put your hands on your stomach. And when I count to 4 and say breathe in, I will be counting slowly, and I want you to breathe in slowly. When I say breathe out, you'll exhale slowly as well. We'll do this and take 3 deep cleansing breaths. So breathe in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. In, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. Hopefully that allowed you to just take a moment, decompress, and feel a little better. There is so much to talk about when we talk about education, public education, and the state of public education. Actually, I was thinking one way, and after talking to my guest as we were preparing for the show, we went another way. I heard what they were saying. And these are educators, people who are still in the field. Vanetta is still in the classroom, and Kanetra has moved up to an administrative level, but it's only been half a year out. So she's still got one foot in the classroom, and now has in a position to impact schools and students at a broader level. I'll let her tell you a little about that later on. But as always, I like to ask my guests, introduce yourself and tell us who you are. And I want to know what made you enter the field of education, and then tell us something unique about yourself. Vanetta, I'm going to let you go first.
Okay, well, again, I'm Vanetta. This is my 25th year in education. What made me decide to go into the field of education? I actually wanted to go into criminal justice. But my dad, who was an educator and eventually became a principal, said, "Hey, you're a teacher, and I can see it." And so my freshman year of college at the University of Houston, he made me change my major. So ever since then, I've been a teacher. I've done a lot in leadership. I've done a lot on the administrative side. I've been a literacy specialist. Right now, I'm our campus SEL, social emotional learning liaison. I also facilitate for the HISD talent department. And literacy specialists, I facilitate trainings for other literacy specialists. I wear many hats. I'm called a sheltered instruction coach, where I support teachers and give them strategies and helping students who the state now calls emergent bilinguals students. Those are students who are where English is their second language. Those of us who have been in the field a long time, they used to be called LEP students. They went from LEP to ESL to ELL. And so as of September of last year, the state is now calling those students who are English language learners emerging bilinguals. And so even with all of that experience, I do have my master's in education administration, but I realized that the real work is in coaching teachers. So I decided to step away from the idea of being a principal and to more of in the classroom with the students, but also in the coaching role where I build capacity in teachers and helping them become better teachers. So that's what I do.
Awesome. That is
Something unique about me is
mhm.
life is real funny. The school I work at right now, I'm new at my school this year. Uh, our family is fourth generation. Four generations of my family attended this school, which is really, really unique. My grandmother, who was born in 1929, she attended this school. My
Wow.
parents met at this school. My daughter went to this school. And so now, I would say around 2011, you have to ask Mama Sonia, around 2011, we fought because the school was not performing well. We fought for the school to be a magnet school, and they listened. The community fought, and now it's a magnet school. And so I'm here now. So that's one unique thing that I'm happy for. The last time I was actually here, they tried to throw me in jail for fighting for this community and for this school. And so now I'm here. So I'm humbled and blessed to be in the role to serve the very school that I was fighting to stay open.
That is unique, amazing. Four generations. Wow.
Yes. Mhm.
Thanks for sharing that. Kanetra, tell us about you and what made you enter the field of education and something unique about you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kanetra Cooper, and I am going into my 13th year in education. I have taught mainly in the elementary realm, teaching third grade, first grade, and sixth grade. Dibbled and dabbled a little bit in middle school as well. Um, I realized in my parenting years that I really do love children, and being able to teach children, being able to inspire them, just watching them grow and just watching them enjoy life. And as they grow up, when they're young and they just have not a care in the world, I really found a love and a passion for that. And so I started out in corporate America, did about a decade in corporate America. And then I realized I don't want to work with grown children. I want to work with real children. And so I came into that cornerstone of life where I had to make a decision. You stay in corporate America and sacrifice these years with your children, or find a career that will allow you to also engage. And so education was right up my alley because I love children anyways. It allowed me to stay close to my children, same off days, same schedule, kind of, sort of. So it was a great segue. And then I really do love teaching and growing and partnering with different campus leadership and parents. So that is what pushed me into education. I would say that one unique thing about me is that my faith is extremely strong. I picked up my two daughters. I think they were ages 4 and 9, and we moved across seas to Dubai. And I taught in Dubai for 3 years as a single African-American woman in a predominantly Muslim country. And it was one of the best decisions that I ever made in my life. And my children and I are still reaping the benefits of that leap of faith.
Awesome. Thank you. A little more about you guys is I'll start with you, Kanetra. What makes you stay in education? That's what got you here, and your children are older. Baby girl's in middle school now, right?
Yep. Last year, middle school.
Last year, when we met, she was little bitty.
Like almost right out my belly.
Yeah, she was a baby. Wow. And now, what makes you stay in education?
I think for the most part, it's my passion, and being in education, it's one of those things that's never going to go away. We're always going to need passionate, driven, inspired individuals to participate in education, regardless of what realm it is, whether it's from the administrative standpoint or whether it's from the teaching role. I know that teachers are the front line, and a lot of times they are the ones that deal with the real deal. However, I feel like education is definitely a passion for me. And I think that I bring several different aspects to the realm. Although I'm not in the classroom anymore, I'm sort of along the same lines with Vanetta. I'm writing curriculum and coaching and teaching teachers and helping them with the best way to reach these students and to create a learning environment that's conducive to our learners of today. That's what keeps me here.
And what about you, Vanetta?
Well, for me, I would say the same thing. And when thinking of that question, I'm reminded of my theme for this school year. And my theme is a quote from Malala Yousafzai. I don't know if you're familiar with her. That's the little Pakistani girl who was shot by the Taliban for speaking for equal rights for girls. But Malala said, one child, one teacher, one book, and one pen can change the world. And we know that. That is my theme. I live by that. And I just feel in today's society, especially with the teacher shortage, we need more people helping reach these students. And so I feel like that's my purpose at this point in my career, at this point in my life. Reading is everything. Literacy is everything. Literacy can change the life of a child. And I've seen it over the past 25 years. I've seen it, and it's the reason why I'm still here today.
Awesome. Thank you both for sharing. Now let's talk about education a little more. I wanted the audience to get a really understanding of who you were, and I can feel your passion and know, that you guys are well invested in what we're talking about. So, I believe that in order for a child to be successful in school, there should be what I call a triad partnership: parent, school, and child. And all are involved in making a child successful. What are your thoughts on this, on my idea about this triad, that you got to have all three? And I see all three as equally important. Kanetra, yours lit up, so I guess you were ready to say something about that.
Well, I definitely believe in the love triangle or triad per se when it comes to education. I think a lot of times, so if I speak from a parent role, a lot of times parents fail to remember that they were the child's first teacher. And so a lot of times when children get to the age where they can go to school, parents seem to disconnect themselves with the learning process. And it's extremely important. It's a partnership. Yes, your children spend the majority of their day at school with the teachers and in the school and with the administrators, but the learning starts at home. And it's kind of like anything else. Kind of like when you go to church on Sunday mornings and the pastor says, don't leave what you learn here in the church, take it out to you and remember it on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all out through the week. I think that's what our parents need to remember, is that we need them in education to help make their children successful. And that partnership is super duper important, because if the child sees that it's not just my teacher that's holding me accountable, but I know when I go home, my parents are also going to hold me accountable for what it is that I need to know, then it can start to allow that child to start doing some self-assessments and some self-realizations in regards to, I have to do my part in this, because I know that it doesn't matter which place I am, the expectations are still the same.
Awesome. What do you think about my triad? Thank you. What do you think about this idea of a partnership, Vanetta?
I think the partnership is very, very important. And everything Kanetra says is so relevant. It's so true, especially the part about if the parent holds the child accountable, then she or he will know the expectation, the bar is set high at home and at school. And since she spoke about the parents, from more of the parents' role, I'll talk about the teacher's role, the educator's role, be it teachers, administrators, anybody, counselors, anybody who works with students. I think the real issue is we need to be more culturally responsive to our students, culturally responsive. And so when most people think of culture, they think of people from foreign countries, right? But everybody has a culture. And so when we are culturally responsive, the self-esteem goes up, kids feel valued, kids feel loved, And when a child's cultural background is acknowledged, that child feels validated. And so this is, I just did a training 2 weeks ago on this very theme. And so real quickly, I'll just share a little bit about what I did and you'll understand where I'm coming from. I started out with adults because there were teachers and administrators in the room. And I'd given everybody a big figure, like a gingerbread man, you know, like a paper doll, the big figures. And I gave everybody Band-Aids on every table. And so I asked them to think of for a minute. You know how when we get shots, immunizations, you may get blood drawn or whatever, most of the time you get a Band-Aid, right? And so if you've ever gone home, you put your shirt back on or raise your cuff down, the Band-Aid is still there, right? But you may have forgotten about the Band-Aid because it's covered up. When you go home and take the shower, you take off your clothes, you realize that Band-Aid is still there. Well, we call that a hidden scar. And so as adults, we all have scars. And so what I did, I gave everybody a figure. And so I told them, I said, look, if it's too sensitive, if it's too much for you, you don't have to participate. If you don't want anybody in the room to know your business, we all have hidden scars that we might not want others to see. And so I said, every scar that you have in your life, place a Band-Aid somewhere on your body. And so I did things like drug abuse, parents with PTSD, homelessness, and I made it real neutral. Didn't get a job you want, homelessness, helplessness, road rage. And so I said, you know, these are things that we have, but as adults, we pull it all together and make it happen, right? But think about children who come into school every day. They have scars that we don't see. So my question to you is, are you going to contribute or contaminate scars that are there? Or are you going to assist in making sure that another scar is not added to a child? Will you cause a child to need another Band-Aid? And so that's what I mean by culturally responsive. You have students who face racism, misogyny, unequal access to healthcare, things like that, PTSD, parents with mental abuse, parents with physical abuse, parents who had bad childhoods themselves. If a child had an uncle who's an alcoholic and raged all night long, and that say he or she couldn't go to sleep, they live with grandma and grandma is running, they're running, they can't sleep, they're scared, uncle might pull a gun or knife on them. Then think about it, that child comes to school and you're the first person they encounter, and then you yell at that child. Or say the child who has to keep brothers and sisters while mom works, and then that child gets in trouble because the younger child's hair isn't combed. Or mom who, yes, she gets public assistance, but the children eat cereal. If they get that, new boyfriend gets what? Steak. Or what about that child who dad used to live in the home? They're used to mom and dad. Dad is no longer there. Now dad is replaced with someone else. Then they come to school. So that's the biggest part of what I see is why kids are not successful in the importance of the triad is because we're not being culturally responsive, especially with African-American children. Why does this child have on Jordan tennis shoes? You're offended because the child has on Michael Jordan shoes, but no pencil. Well, what can you do about it? And Kanetra will tell you she spent over a decade in education. You spent over a decade or more in education. There are things that are beyond our control. So our job as educators is to reel the parents in, whatever it takes. We have to reel them in to make the triad, because it really does take a village, and things that are outside our control, we cannot focus on that. We have to acknowledge the triad, acknowledge the parents, acknowledge that children have problems, but our goal is to what? Contribute and not contaminate.
I like that comment, contribute and not contaminate. And far too often, the school contaminates. And I did spend almost 2 decades in public education. And you're right, there is contamination, unfortunately, that goes forth. Getting back to, let's look at, we'll kind of go between parents and administration or school in general. What is a parent's role? Because sometimes you hear parents who have the idea that I send them to school from whatever time, 7 to 3, that's your responsibility. Don't call me, that's on you. I know you guys have heard it. What do you say to that?
I think that a lot of times, so anytime I've had issues in the classroom with a student, I always try to look for root causes. And so one of the things that I really would like to dig into in our parents is, what is the root cause? Is there a fear? Is there a lack of the fear of the unknown? Maybe that parent didn't have had a very short educational path, and maybe they don't know how to help their children. Maybe they don't know how to support their children. Maybe the way we're regrouping math looks foreign to them, and that's not how they learned. And maybe some of these 3 and 4 step problems are extensive, and the way students are being taught is not something that they understand and that they feel like they can support. I think that I know for me, anytime I would reach out to parents, I always let them know how important their role is in their child's education. Always when I meet my parents for open house, I make it very clear this is a partnership and I can't do this without you. And just as I'm laying down my expectations, of course, you know, as school teachers, we send home that one form where the parents are supposed to read about all the expectations for the year, and the student's supposed to bring it back and says, everybody, you know, your student's supposed to do this and this. They're supposed to have their journal every day. They're supposed to have their pen, and parents signing and sending back. And then first day student, next day student comes back with no journal and no pen. So I think one of the biggest things in the root cause is like, how do we support our parents? So in that triad, as an administration, as a school district, how do we support our parents, and how do we build the confidence in them to let them know that there are ways that you can help and support your child? It may not be the way you learned it, but you can learn together. And there are so many different everyday experiences that parents can use, and they might not even realize it. So it's okay if your kid wants to wear Jordans. It's okay if your kid wants an iPhone, but maybe you have them figure out the taxes on the iPhone, or figure out the taxes on those Jordans, or if there's a discount, or just problem solving in regards to, okay, which way should we go to school this morning? Do you know that there's more than one way to get there? So there's just little things that parents can do to help support critical thinking, to help children continue to exercise those critical thinking skills. And I just think parents may not be aware of just how powerful and just how much they have in their tool bag. And I think as a school district, as teachers, as administrators, as reaching out into the community, if we start to build the confidence in these parents and to give them those tools, and to do, and I know Vanetta, the liaison for the community, and to get those parents to realize just how much they really can be supportive. And they may not know exactly what their child is reading, or what the asthenosphere is, or what the lithosphere is when we're talking about the layers of the earth. However, there are other things that they can do to help support their child and to help foster that critical thinking, and to really help build their minds and to challenge them. The last thing that I'll share is that I read a book entitled Outwitting the Devil. And one of the biggest things that it discussed was, we tell children what to do. Do we give them an opportunity to think for themselves? Do we give them an opportunity to question? And I know, especially when Vanetta spoke about culturally, I know when my mom said something, that was it. There was no questions. However, we really need to rethink that, and we really need to foster the critical thinking and looking at different ways to do things. Because you have kids in kindergarten, and they're like, the teacher asks a question, all the kids' hands go up. I want to answer, miss, I want to answer. And you look at that same student in 8th grade, and that student sitting in the back of the classroom, they have their hoodie on, their arms are folded, they are disengaged completely. And you ask yourself, I just saw you, some years ago in kindergarten, and you were excited. What happened to that child? And we have to ask ourselves, what happened to that child? Because as that child progressed through school, they were looked down on to make mistakes. we have to remind students and parents as well that it's okay to make mistakes and students can learn from it, and to encourage the different ways of thinking and the different avenues of solving problems. So that's what I think, for the most part, is going to be a big factor in getting our parents to really, really play a role in their students' education.
I'm going to let you come before you comment, Vanetta. I do want to say, when it comes to this whole idea of failure, there is that statement, failure is not an option. And I always say that's really false, because failure is inevitable.
No.
If you live and breathe, you will be successful at some things and you will fail at some things. I say that failure is an opportunity to learn.
Mhm.
And if you learn from that failure, you haven't totally failed because you gained something from it. Quick example of when I was in the classroom, I did a lot of hands-on teaching. And so my kids they would have to work for different rewards. And by reading, you had to read X amount of books. So it was November and we were going to cook a Thanksgiving meal. And this is special ed, mind you, resource classroom. And so the math part of it was I gave every table had a different thing they were going to cook. One group was making pumpkin bread, but you had to cut the recipe in half because at the current time we were working on fractions. So whatever it was, you had to cut it in half. Well, if you are making banana bread and you cut everything in half except for the liquid, because there's very little liquid that goes in there, it will not bake. And that is what happened. Now, being a teacher, and I had parents, donate the food and everything, but I had enough where we could cook everything twice because I knew something wasn't gonna work. I just know it. And that didn't work. And of course, the kids at first were really upset. See, you messed it up. Well, we're here to learn. So I saw what was going on. And I was reminding them to make sure you do half this. And one group had to double what they did, one had to half. And it was a learning lesson. You could have looked at it as a failure. No, it was an opportunity to learn. And we also started cooking early enough so that by the time they ate, by the time they were ready for the dessert, it was done. But yeah, you get creative, and failure is not final. And failure, you know what? Failure is not an option, it's inevitable. And I think when we get parents to understand and kids to understand it, so you don't have to be defeated by even that F on that report card on that paper. Okay, I need to learn, but it's not final. But going back, Vanetta, I wanted to just comment on that. Going back to the previous question, Vanetta.
Well, as far as parents, I think we need to build relationships with them more to have that buy-in, but also work a different way in helping to clear up misconceptions. A lot of people think parents don't care. Sometimes parents don't know to care. A lot of people, and it all goes back to cultural responsiveness. Some people, like Kanetra said, think I just send my kids to school. It's the teacher's job. It's the administrator's job. It's the principal's job. What's the point? Why contact me? I think it's all about building those relationships and clearing up the misconceptions. Because ultimately, what happens is because of social media, because of the news, because of the crazy folk, I would say, and there's no such thing as crazy folk. What I mean by that is people who, and I don't want to say anybody's crazy. That's not what I'm saying at all. But predators. So I will rephrase that to not necessarily say crazy, but predators. These teachers who get in trouble for doing inappropriate things to children, they have problems too. Because of things like that, child abuse on the part of teachers, sometimes the lack of trust is not there. We have to work real hard with parents to let them understand that it's important not to paint everybody with the same broad brush. There are a whole lot of people who are really, really committed to a child's education. And like she said, there are some things they can do at home. What I've noticed, because most of my career has been in what they call at-risk schools or Title I schools, when it comes to minority parents, sometimes it has to be some type of incentive attached to bring them to the schools. But we have to begin the works of changing that mindset. Um, Not everybody would be, even just like for the two of us, and I'm not saying it because it's me, but I am saying it because here it is, almost 8 o'clock at night. And we're speaking out, trying to make a difference, trying to help people better understand the crisis that we face every day in schools across America. So you still have people who are dedicated, and it's important to try to help parents understand. Like she said, you're their first teacher, but we're here too. We're here committed. I don't know, Bronwyn, I want to say openly thank you because just like when school started, I was out for, I don't know if you knew this, but I got COVID last August. And for 12 months, I suffered with long COVID all the way through August. I still have a few residual side effects, but thank God I'm better. I've had more better days lately than I had in a long time. And so, and going back to work, I decided to switch schools, go to older kids because I can't do some of the things that I used to do, like with the little ones. And so, what did I do? I started early thinking about my theme. Again, like I told you, the novel. Let me see if I have. You mind if I share?
No, share
Do I have
screen.
time to share?
Yes.
Yeah, I want to. Do you mind if I share?
No.
Okay.
As you see, we have people, both of them, that are just dedicated. And okay, I'm going to show you this, and that's awesome.
Oh, let me turn it right up. I was grading papers. So
Okay.
this summer, I read this book, I Am Malala, with some kids. And this is about the girl where the theme came from. So I made this the theme of my class. So most people would think, oh, she's a veteran teacher. She's old. It's time to go home. See, parents think things like that. But here it is. I started all the way over, and I wanted my classroom to be a safe place. I wanted it to be a literacy place where no matter what kids had going on in life, they can come to this classroom where I'm sitting right now and feel loved, feel welcome, in a safe environment where they can accompany and embody literacy and reading as opposed to seeing it as a chore. So I had to have this rug, and people said, why do you want a rug? Why do you want to have carpet in the classroom? Why do you want to have a couch in the classroom? Because I wanted the kids to feel at home. I want them to love literacy. I want them to love reading, listening, speaking, and writing. And so I do want to say thank you because I want to show you the rug. Can I show you the rug?
Show us the rug.
Okay, because what I did, I couldn't afford it with that long COVID. I was out work. And so I did a donor's choose, and I got my family and friends to donate toward the rug.
I
And
donated.
Bronwyn was a contributor of that rug. So you get to see the rug. I promise y'all this was not planned. So let me show you the rug.
Go down a little more.
Okay.
Is it the alphabet?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
Awesome.
And do you see the
awesome.
But the theme.
Now we can see the whole board. I like that.
One child, one teacher, one book, and one pen can change the world. And that's true. So people, teachers these days, all they do is grade papers and holler at my kids. Look at all of this. Can you see it?
Yes. And it looks inviting. It does.
Yeah.
All right. Got some Tupac in there.
How to think critically. And so
Oh, we can't hear you. Vanetta, we can't hear you.
okay. I said, I don't just ask some baby questions. What does the prologue reveal about Malala at this point in the selection? The author chose to title the selection, I Am Malala, most likely to do And what connection do you make? So again, we we love, there are some of us out here who love children, love literacy, work really, really hard. And so these parents, they really don't understand. And so it's our job to get buy-in, change the mindset. I know when we were in school, because I'll be 50, less than a month now. I'll be 50 October 1st. When I was in school, my parents just sent me to school and that was it. But we need our children, especially our little Black boys and girls, we need them to be able to compete in today's society. Because you know what? A lot of kids, when it was the pandemic, a lot of children everywhere, different cultures, a lot of those children, they had the tutors. They had the parents who were ensuring that they didn't have any learning gaps. Our kids have to catch up. We have to catch up. And we have to be able to compete. And so how do they do that? It's by helping spread the message to parents to help them understand, look, we're your child's best friend. We're not the enemy. We're not the enemy. And so forget about your idea of school. Forget about what you see on TV. Forget about, well, no, don't forget, because there's good and bad in everything. But just try to keep your mind open. Ask your child those critical questions. What did you learn today?
Hi, Brown, do you mind if Vanetta brought up a couple of points
Go
that I
on.
want to bring up? So one of the things is when I take a look at the rug in the classroom and I heard her say, we want them to feel at home. When we look at our classrooms for today, a lot of times our classrooms look like they did in like 1920. And I think that that's something else that we as the school and that triad needs to look at. I definitely have flexible seating in my classroom, and it's giving students the autonomy to say, oh, I want to sit over here, or I want to just sit on the floor. And I know that that's not what grandma and them used to. What you mean? But if a student feels comfortable and you create a space as a teacher for that, maybe you have pillows, maybe you have mats, or like Vanetta has in her classroom, maybe she has a rug that allows that student to sit in those flexible seating. Some students like to stand at a high table. So I think that's something else that the administrative part of the partnership for the schools can take into consideration about flexible seating and allowing children to do those types of things. And then the other piece that I wanted to bring up is, what can I do as a parent? Make sure that you have a designated spot at your house for your child to do their work. Make sure that there are no distractions. Make sure that, if it's a TV tray or if it's a desk, make sure that the TV is off and that they're not on their cell phones, being distracted. So I think those are two big things when we bring them together. If I feel at home and I have a place where I can do my work and I can be attentive, and then when I go into the classroom, I feel the same way, that it's a safe place to learn and the classroom is inviting and it looks like my teacher wants me to be there, because I've been in classrooms where teachers don't have anything on the wall. It's not decorated, it's not inviting, and it's like the student sitting in a jail cell. So I think that those are two of the big pieces that play a role as far as the triad with the school and the parenting. They both need to have inviting places and set aside for students to do, to really take part in the educational process.
It is so true. Someone just dropped in and said that in their grandson's room, they have teepees for reading. And she thought that was awesome. It's about being creative. When I was in the classroom, again, many of the years I taught special ed, and on Fridays was reading day. Reading was, literacy is my thing as well. And if you got X amount of points during the week, you got to choose different places to read. So one day the area superintendent came in my classroom. There was a child sitting on a table with headphones on. One was sitting at a desk, and I had these closets, and they could sit in the closet, but I had to see your face. So his head was in the doorway, but his body was in the closet. And I was sitting, as they say, crisscross applesauce. The child had her head on my knee reading a book to me. So the area superintendent walks in the room. And I'm sitting on the floor. I'm not getting ready to jump up. I was still young, but I wasn't gonna jump up, okay, because that was just too much.
Mhm.
And I said, I'm so glad you came in. And he had been before. Yeah, I never know what I'm gonna see when I come to your classroom. I said, well, this is reading day. And that's all they do the whole hour and a half they're here is read. And they had book reports and stuff to do, but this was reading day. I said, you can pick any kid in the room, get their book, read, they'll tell you whether or read the page before, and they'll be able to tell you about it because they're really reading. And in my mind, I'm praying, y'all better not
Like,
mess up. Don't mess up, don't mess up. And
Right.
fortunately, there's only about 8 kids in there at the time because if you do one, you know you got to do them all. Because, pick me.
Mhm.
And they all could do that. So one was under a desk, one was literally sitting on a table. But because that's what made it fun. And guess what? You had to earn the right to do that by working. So it incentivized work, but it was a very comfortable environment. I had to stop my kids from coming to the classroom because I was on the playground.
Oh,
When their class was in recess, they want to come in and read because they were trying to get the most points, when.
Mhm.
The girl need a break. This one time, this classroom is closed. But if you bring it in, and I involve the parents, you get the parents in. And one final comment I wanted to make about parents is sometimes in schools, we have to understand some parents are afraid to come to school. They're intimidated. And one of you hinted at it earlier, but I want to bring that point out. If I didn't finish high school and I don't even have a GED, and I think you're going to talk to me about helping my child, I can't do that. So I'm not going to come in. And it's about being able to get them more involved, even because I too worked only in, low income, Title I, whatever you want to call it, kind of schools. And, bring them in. One of my personal accomplishments was when I did have a parent go back to school. She got a GED.
Awesome.
And it was because it
That's
was like, and
amazing.
then we were talking about reading when she said, she finally said, I can't help them read because I really can't read. Oh, okay. Well, we can work with that. You want to come by after school? So it wasn't like, oh, you can't read for real. I bet I can help you with that too.
That's right.
And
Building a
I did.
relationship.
And you built that relationship, and when she
Yes.
got a GED, I did. It was on time. I felt so proud, and that was a parent, not a child. But it is about being able to make those connections and in doing that. Well, I told you that the 45 minutes would go really quickly, and we would not discuss everything we thought we would. But it is a goal of Black mental health is mental health. It's to show that every part of our life impacts our mental well-being. Education. It impacts you financially because you're better educated. And even if it's just target education, it's going to help you be more self-sufficient. It impacts your mental well-being because if you are the parent and you feel your child's not being educated properly, you're not going to feel good. If you are the educator and you're stressed and feel like you can't do what you need to do, that's going to impact your mental well-being, mental health as well. So education, a big part of our mental well-being. And thank you, ladies, for being committed. Anytime you spend over a decade doing anything, you committed to it. And you've done that and then some. So I feel your passion. I feel your commitment, and hopefully those who are listening. Oh, I meant in the beginning to say share, so you can still go and share this on your page so others can hear, so they can understand. We can talk all day about what's wrong with education, but tonight I hope shined a little light on some things that are right and things you can do. We like to end each show with a call to action. And my call to action tonight is if you have a child in the school, be involved. Go visit that teacher, even if your child's in high school. When there's a meet the teacher night in high school, meet the teacher might see one. You be that one. And take your neighbor with you. Take your friend with you. Go pick them up. You be the carpool driver for Meet the Teacher Night so that you can meet that teacher all the way up through high school. Meet the teacher. Become about what can I do? A creative way. One person I knew, 8 years, she did the teacher's bulletin board because she was very creative. And that was her way of saying, I can do something for you. Everybody wanted her child because she did the best bulletin boards. But then she became known. So, you know, you might not be the one who can do, you know, whatever, but there's something you can do. So be involved. And I always say, be an educated voter. I end every show with that because voting definitely impacts our education, how money is spent, how just everything, what kids can read. So think about being an educated voter as well. In the last minute, let's see, who spoke first at the beginning? I think Vanetta, you started, so Kanetra, I'll let you go first. One last 30-second comment you'd like to have.
I would just like to say that parents, teachers, administrators, and students, you are important to the process. You have a purpose and you can make a difference.
Vanetta?
One child, one teacher, one book, and one pen can change the world.
Awesome. Thank you, ladies, for coming on, and I'll have you back, you know, next semester to talk again and see where we are in the school year and to keep a positive light on education. Thanks again. See the rest of you in the audience next week.